ExamPrep.School. Arizona Insurance Producer Accident and Health Exam. There are 4 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Accident and Health Insurance Basics, Disability Income and Related Insurance, Federal Laws and Regulations, Federal Tax Considerations for Health Insurance, General Insurance Concepts, Group Health Insurance, Individual Accident and Health Insurance Policy Provisions, Insurance Regulation, Medical Plans, Specialized Health Insurance for Qualified Individuals. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Under Arizona Insurance Regulations, which class of producer license authorizes the sale of both individual and group accident and health insurance policies? A. Accident and Health License. B. Life-only license. C. Property and Casualty License. D. Personal Lines License. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is the Accident and Health License, which grants authority to solicit and bind both individual and group accident and health insurance in Arizona. Reason B is not correct. A life-only license does not grant authority to sell accident or health insurance products. Reason C is not correct. A property and casualty license covers property and liability lines, not accident or health insurance. Reason D is not correct. A personal lines license is limited to personal property and casualty coverages, not health insurance. Question 2. Under Arizona law, an applicant for a resident or non-resident producer license must prove lawful presence and satisfy which additional requirement? A. Maintain continuous Arizona residency for at least 1 year prior to application. B. Be an Arizona resident if applying as resident, or maintain a principal place of business in the home state if applying as non-resident. C. Hold United States citizenship. D. Be registered with the Social Security Administration. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that applicants must show lawful presence in the United States and either reside in Arizona or, if applying as non-residents, maintain a principal place of business in their home state. Reason A is not correct. Arizona statute does not impose a minimum continuous residency duration as an eligibility criterion. Reason C is not correct. United States citizenship is not required. Lawful presence is sufficient for non-citizens. Reason D is not correct. Registration with the Social Security Administration is not a licensing eligibility requirement. Question 3. In Arizona, how often must an accident and health producer renew their license, and what is the renewal fee? A. Every year with a $65 renewal fee. B. Every 2 years with a $75 renewal fee. C. Every 2 years with a $65 renewal fee. D. Every 4 years with a $65 renewal fee. The correct answer is C. Arizona statutes require accident and health producer licenses to be renewed biennially, and the prescribed renewal fee is $65. Reason A is not correct. Annual renewal is incorrect because the state mandates a biennial cycle. Reason B is not correct. The renewal fee is not $75. The statutory fee is $65. Reason D is not correct. Renewing every 4 years is incorrect. The cycle is every 2 years. Question 4. An Arizona resident insurance producer submits a written request for inactive license status 1 month before the license renewal deadline due to entering active military service. Under Arizona law, how are the renewal fee and continuing education requirements handled? A. Both the renewal fee and continuing education obligations are deferred until 6 months after separation from active duty. B. Renewal fees are permanently waived and continuing education requirements are permanently exempt for the duration of military service. C. The renewal fee is deferred until separation from active duty, but continuing education must be completed by the original renewal date or the license is terminated. D. Renewal fees are deferred until discharge, and continuing education must be fulfilled within 1 year after reactivation of the license. The correct answer is A. Under Arizona statutes, a licensee entering active military service who requests inactive status before the renewal date may defer both the renewal fee and all continuing education requirements until 6 months after separation from active duty. Reason B is not correct. Continuing education and fees are not permanently exempt. They are only deferred until 6 months after separation. Reason C is not correct. Continuing education is not due by the original renewal date. The requirement is extended until 6 months after separation. Reason D is not correct. Continuing education must be completed within 6 months of discharge, not within 1 year after reactivation. Question 5. Which of the following accurately describes the authority of the Director of the Arizona Department of Insurance regarding producer licenses? A. Revoke a producer license immediately for failure to pay child support without notice or opportunity for a hearing. B. Deny, suspend, or revoke a producer license only after substantiated consumer complaints alleging unfair claims handling or deceptive marketing practices. C. Suspend a producer license for failure to complete required continuing education within 120 days of renewal without immediate reinstatement upon compliance. D. Deny, suspend, or revoke a producer license for conviction of a felony involving fraud or breach of trust following a hearing. The correct answer is D. The director has statutory authority under Arizona law to deny, suspend, or revoke a producer license based on felony convictions involving fraud or breach of trust, provided due process is afforded through a hearing. Reason A is not correct. Revocation for child support non-payment requires notice and hearing rights before license action can be finalized. Reason B is not correct. Consumer complaints alone do not establish sole grounds for license action. Convictions or statutory violations are required. Reason C is not correct. Continuing education lapses may lead to an activation, but not automatic suspension without the opportunity to reinstate upon completion. Question 6. Which statement best reflects the main purpose of the Fair Credit Reporting Act in the context of health insurance underwriting? A. Requires consumer reporting agencies to maintain strict confidentiality of consumer investigative reports used in underwriting. B. Ensures that health insurers use only accurate and relevant consumer credit information when determining coverage eligibility and premiums. C. Mandates that health insurers provide free annual credit-based insurance scores to applicants. D. Limits the use of credit information in underwriting to preventing identity theft and fraud. The correct answer is B. The Fair Credit Reporting Act aims to promote accuracy, fairness, and privacy in consumer credit information, ensuring that health insurers base underwriting decisions on relevant and accurate data. Reason A is not correct. Confidentiality of investigative reports is regulated under other statutes, not the core aim of the Fair Credit Reporting Act in underwriting. Reason C is not correct. Providing free annual reports is a consumer right under the Act, but not its primary objective in health insurance underwriting. Reason D is not correct. While preventing identity theft is a benefit, the Act's central focus is on accuracy and fair use of credit data, not exclusively fraud prevention. Question 7. Under National Do Not Call Registry rules, within how many days of a phone number being added to the registry must an insurance telemarketer update its internal call list and cease calls to that number? A. 5 days. B. 15 days. C. 31 days. D. 45 days. The correct answer is C. The TCPA and FTC regulations require telemarketers, including insurance sellers, to refresh their calling lists every 31 days to ensure numbers newly on the registry are removed. Reason A is not correct. A 5-day period is too short. Regulations align with the monthly registry update cycle, not daily. Reason B is not correct. A 15-day window is incorrect because the statute specifies approximately a month between list scrubs. Reason D is not correct. A 45-day interval exceeds the maximum allowed time frame and would violate registry requirements. Question 8. Harman Life Insurance Company is underwriting an individual health insurance application. The applicant volunteers that she has undergone a predictive genetic test showing a high risk of developing colon cancer in the future. According to the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, which underwriting practice is permissible? A. Require the applicant to complete a detailed 3-generation family medical history form. B. Request the applicant's laboratory report detailing the genetic test results. C. Adjust the premium rates based on the applicant's predictive genetic test result. D. Consider the applicant's documented diagnosis of hypertension when setting the rate. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is to consider the applicant's existing diagnosed hypertension because GINA prohibits the insurer from requesting or using genetic information, including predictive test results and family medical history for underwriting, but it permits use of manifested health conditions. Reason A is not correct. Family medical history is defined as genetic information under GINA and cannot be collected or used for underwriting decisions. Reason B is not correct. Requesting the genetic test laboratory report would involve obtaining genetic information, which GINA strictly prohibits for underwriting purposes. Reason C is not correct. Adjusting premiums based on a predictive genetic test result is disallowed because using genetic information for rating violates GINA. Question 9. Which statement most accurately differentiates a pure risk exposure from a speculative risk exposure in health insurance? A. Pure risk exposures present only the possibility of a loss or no change, whereas speculative exposures also allow for gain. B. Pure risk exposures are voluntarily assumed by insureds, whereas speculative exposures arise from involuntary market fluctuations. C. Pure risk exposures are typically uninsurable, whereas speculative exposures are commonly underwritten by insurers. D. Pure risk exposures can result in loss or gain, whereas speculative exposures can only result in loss. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that pure risk exposures present only the possibility of loss or no change, whereas speculative exposures also allow for gain, reflecting the fundamental distinction in health insurance risk classification. Reason B is not correct. This is incorrect because risk classification is based on potential outcomes, not whether a risk is assumed voluntarily or involuntarily. Reason C is not correct. This is incorrect because pure risk exposures are insurable, whereas speculative risks, which involve potential gains, are generally uninsurable. Reason D is not correct. This is incorrect because it reverses the definitions, implying pure risks can produce gains, which they cannot. Question 10. Which of the following best exemplifies a characteristic of an ideally insurable health insurance risk? A. Exposure units are sufficiently homogeneous to allow pooling under the law of large numbers. B. Potential losses arise from a deliberate act, facilitating precise underwriting. C. Premium loads are subject to wide variability to match each insured's unique exposure. D. Loss events are highly predictable in timing and severity, enabling guaranteed underwriting profits. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that ideally insurable risks consist of homogeneous exposure units that enable pooling under the law of large numbers, ensuring predictable loss outcomes in health insurance. Reason B is not correct. This is incorrect because insurable risks must be fortuitous, not resulting from deliberate acts. Reason C is not correct. This is incorrect because premium stability is required. Excessive variability undermines risk pooling. Reason D is not correct. This is incorrect because ideal risks must be uncertain, not highly predictable to satisfy insurability criteria. Question 11. Which of the following techniques in health insurance planning is primarily a risk retention method? A. Creating a funded self-insurance reserve to pay for routine claim expenses. B. Ceding a portion of exposure to a reinsurer through quota share agreements. C. Purchasing stop-loss coverage to shift catastrophic losses above retention limits. D. Structuring policy exclusions to eliminate coverage for specified high-risk events. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that establishing a funded self-insurance reserve is a risk retention strategy, whereby the insured assumes and finances predictable losses instead of transferring them. Reason B is not correct. This is incorrect because ceding exposure to a reinsurer constitutes risk transfer, not retention. Reason C is not correct. This is incorrect because purchasing stop-loss coverage transfers high-severity losses to another insurer. Reason D is not correct. This is incorrect because excluding perils is a form of risk avoidance, not retention. Question 12. During her weekly aerobics class, Diane notices a puddle of water on the hardwood floor that has not been cleaned up. She slips on the puddle, sprains her wrist, and incurs medical expenses for treatment. In this scenario, which element represents the peril? A. The wet hardwood floor. B. Negligent cleaning staff omitting warning signs. C. The sprained wrist. D. Hospital bills for treatment. The correct answer is C. The sprained wrist is the peril because it is the specific cause of the insured's loss. The wet floor and staff negligence are hazards that increase the chance of injury, and the medical expenses constitute the loss resulting from the peril. Reason A is not correct. This describes a hazard, which is a condition that increases the chance of loss, but is not the actual cause of the financial loss. Reason B is not correct. This also represents a hazard source rather than the peril, which is the actual injury event. Reason D is not correct. These are the financial consequences of the injury, representing loss rather than the peril itself. Question 13. Which of the following list contains exactly the essential elements required for a valid accident and health insurance contract? A. Offer, acceptance, indemnity, premium, competent parties. B. Offer, acceptance, consideration, competent parties, legal purpose. C. Proposal, underwriting, consideration, competent parties, legal purpose. D. Offer, acceptance, consideration, legal purpose, utmost good faith. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is the set of 5 essential elements: offer, acceptance, consideration, competent parties, and legal purpose. Each of these must be present for an accident and health insurance contract to be legally binding. Reason A is not correct. This choice includes indemnity and premium, which are contract features but not among the core elements required for a valid contract. Reason C is not correct. Underwriting is an internal process rather than a fundamental contract element, and proposal is not the precise legal term for offer. Reason D is not correct. Utmost good faith is a guiding principle but not one of the 5 essential elements required for contract formation. Question 14. In the context of an accident and health insurance contract, consideration refers to which of the following? A. The promise by the insurer to pay claims in exchange for premium and signed application. B. The exchange of legal duties between insured and insurer, including premium payment and policy benefits. C. The insured's agreement to disclose pre-existing conditions fully to the insurer. D. The insurer's discretion in underwriting risk and setting rates. The correct answer is B. Consideration in an insurance contract is the mutual exchange of legal obligations. The insured agrees to pay premiums, and the insurer agrees to provide coverage as specified. This mutual exchange is what makes the contract enforceable. Reason A is not correct. This description is narrower because it focuses only on the insurer's promise rather than the mutual exchange of obligations. Reason C is not correct. Full disclosure is a duty, but pertains to ubertimae fidei, not to the concept of consideration in contract formation. Reason D is not correct. Underwriting and rate setting are insurer functions, not the consideration exchange to form the contract. Question 15. Which of the following best characterizes the legal purpose requirement for enforceable accident and health insurance agreements? A. The insured must have a valid insurable interest at the time of contract and at the time of loss. B. The insurer must comply with state statutes governing premium taxation and fees. C. The contract must not include coverage for losses arising from an insured's illegal activities. D. The policy's time of payment clause must adhere to the statutory settlement period. The correct answer is C. The legal purpose requirement ensures that an insurance contract serves a lawful objective, meaning it cannot indemnify illegal acts. The other options address regulatory compliance, insurable interest, or payment provisions, which are separate requirements. Reason A is not correct. Insurable interest is a distinct contract element separate from the legal purpose requirement. Reason B is not correct. Compliance with taxation statutes is a regulatory issue, not the legal purpose requirement for contract enforceability. Reason D is not correct. Payment timing provisions are contractual terms but do not relate to the requirement of a lawful object. Question 16. Peter was adjudicated legally incompetent due to early onset dementia but had earlier executed a durable power of attorney. His attorney, in fact, submitted Peter's health insurance application on his behalf. Which statement best reflects the competent party's requirement for a valid health insurance contract? A. An application signed by the durable power of attorney agent is valid even after the insured's adjudication of incompetence. B. Because the insured had capacity when executing the durable power of attorney, any caregiver's informal signature satisfies the competence requirement. C. Only the named insured may sign the application. An agent's signature under a power of attorney cannot satisfy the competence requirement. D. An application for an adjudicated incompetent is valid if a close relative signs the form in the insured's presence. The correct answer is A. The competent party's requirement mandates that an insured must have legal capacity to enter a contract. When an individual has been adjudicated incompetent, a previously executed durable power of attorney remains effective, allowing the agent's signature to bind the insured and satisfy the competence requirement. Informal caregiver signatures or relative signatures without proper authorization do not create a valid contract. Reason B is not correct. A caregiver's informal signature without a valid power of attorney does not confer legal authority to contract on behalf of the insured. Reason C is not correct. An agent acting under a valid power of attorney can satisfy the competence requirement. Third-party signatures are allowed if properly authorized. Reason D is not correct. A relative signature without proper authorization or power of attorney cannot create a valid contract for an adjudicated incompetent. Question 17. Which of the following best describes apparent authority as distinct from express and implied authority for an insurance producer? A. It is explicitly granted by the insurer in a written agreement detailing the producer's powers. B. It arises when the insurer's words or actions lead a reasonable third party to believe the producer is authorized. C. It derives from unwritten powers necessary for the producer to perform duties outlined in the contract. D. It exists only when the producer has obtained actual consent from both the insurer and the applicant. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that apparent authority is based on the insurer's representations to third parties, causing them to reasonably believe the producer has authority, even if no express or implied authority exists. Reason A is not correct. This describes express authority, not apparent, since it refers to explicit written grant of power. Reason C is not correct. This defines implied authority, which covers unwritten powers necessary for duties. Reason D is not correct. This statement adds an applicant's consent requirement, which is not part of apparent authority. Question 18. Under the law of agency and health insurance sales, which duty requires the producer to maintain accurate records of premiums collected and remit them to the insurer? A. Loyalty duty. Act solely in the insurer's best interest without competing considerations. B. Obedience duty. Follow all lawful instructions and directives issued by the insurer. C. Accounting duty. Document and regularly forward collected premiums to the insurer. D. Disclosure duty. Inform the insurer of all material facts learned during the sales process. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that accounting duty obligates the producer to keep precise financial records of premiums and remit those funds promptly to the insurer. Reason A is not correct. This describes the producer's obligation to act in the insurer's best interest, not to handle funds. Reason B is not correct. This refers to following insurer instructions, not maintaining financial records or remitting premiums. Reason D is not correct. This duty involves informing the insurer of material information, not handling or forwarding premiums. Question 19. An insured submits a claim for a prescription drug used off-label to treat a chronic condition. The health policy states that covered medications are those approved by the FDA for indications listed in the formulary. The insurer denies the claim as off-label and not listed. The insured argues that as a layperson, the policy language would lead him to reasonably expect coverage for any FDA-approved drug prescribed by his doctor. Under the doctrine of reasonable expectations, which outcome is most consistent with this doctrine? A. The court enforces the policy's explicit formulary limitation and affirms the denial. B. The court finds the policy ambiguous and requires coverage consistent with the insured's reasonable expectation. C. The court orders the insurer to revise the policy language for future claims, but upholds the current denial. D. The court voids the entire prescription drug benefit for vagueness in the formulary provision. The correct answer is B. The doctrine of reasonable expectations allows a court to interpret ambiguous coverage language in favor of the insured's reasonable understanding, leading to coverage despite the insurer's denial. Reason A is not correct. This applies strict policy enforcement, but the doctrine favors resolving ambiguities for the insured rather than strict denial. Reason C is not correct. Revising future language avoids addressing the insured's current reasonable expectation, which the doctrine protects. Reason D is not correct. Voiding the entire benefit is disproportionate. The doctrine targets ambiguous terms, not complete policy invalidation. Question 20. Which of the following items would typically be included in the agent's report section of a standard accident and health insurance application rather than in the applicant's section? A. Applicant's blood type. B. Agent's remarks about the applicant's moral character. C. Recent medical examination findings. D. Applicant's employment history. The correct answer is B. The agent's report is designed to capture the producer's personal observations and comments about the applicant's character and background, so remarks about moral character belong there. The other items are entered in their respective applicant or medical sections. Reason A is not correct. Applicant's blood type is a medical fact that belongs in the medical information section, not in the agent's report. Reason C is not correct. Findings from a medical examination are recorded in the medical section completed by medical personnel. Reason D is not correct. Employment history is general information that the applicant provides directly in the applicant section. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below. We read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.